Corpse, Kid Copious, back in effect. Purple State Party, you know what we're doing here. We're repping America, the center, and common sense. And, for the most part, California. It's kind of odd how common sense and California start with the same letter and the parallels end there, don't they? Well, let's kick this off and see what we got. So I'm recording this on Saturday, June 6th. This is the day that we, way back when, stormed the beaches of Normandy and began the liberation of Europe. It was also the time that we were continue our campaign to liberate most of Asia, South Pacific, those areas. You know, and there's these dumbasses out there right now who just find it fashionable to hate America. And they're wrong. Because the facts are is that there's no nation on earth, ever, in time, who has provided more for more people. It's true. You know, I say it a lot, and it bears repeating. No matter what label a person wears, they can succeed in America. It's not to say that they can't succeed in other countries, but America leads the pack. We're the biggest. We have the most people. We have the most diversity. And those people of diversity who make up our diversity, they succeed here across the board. There's so many examples that it's not even worth trying to label them all. You know, beyond that, there's an undeniable good about America. We provide stability to the world. You know, we are often the only country that could stem evil. World War I, World War II, the Cold War, the War on Terror. And we give so much of our tax dollars to help people around the world. Sure, you can nitpick about things that we give money to that maybe you don't like. You know, the left and the right both have their complaints. But the fact remains, we spend a lot of our taxpayer money helping other nations. We are one of the most charitable nations, if not the most charitable nation. Giving to causes around the world, helping to feed people in Africa, to bring water to people in Africa, to bring stability to other countries, to help forward social agendas. You know, and yeah, I might have a complaint about some of those social agendas, but some of them I don't complain about. Some of them I fully support. And that's America. That's America. It's a give and take. You know, it's really quite simple. You know, way back in the 40s, we could have just left Europe and Asia in the hands of the Imperial Japanese, the German Nazis, and the Italian fascists, but we didn't. We stormed the beaches of Normandy, Iwo Jima, Sicily, countless other places, and our brethren gave their lives so that the world could be free. That's what we did. If we hadn't gotten involved, you know, there wouldn't be a China today, that's for sure. They wouldn't have existed. They would have been Japanese. The Japanese would have owned almost everything in the South Pacific and all the way north up into Japan. They had all that territory. It was us who took it back. Hitler and Mussolini had all of Europe. You know, it was only a matter of time before they came over to South America. And so this world would look very different if it wasn't for America. You know, we lead the world in inventions. We lead the world in getting things done. And yet people just want to hate on America because it's fashionable. That's the worst part. It's just fashionable. It's part of the playbook that the Marxists are running right now to make you hate your country. Hoorah and America and all that, man. I mean, 250 years and we've accomplished a lot. You know, one of the things that I think really sums up America is that while a lot of other nations fought civil wars to decide who was going to lead them or what party was going to lead them or what philosophy was going to lead them, our Civil War was about freeing people from the bonds of slavery. True. That's just what it is. Are we perfect? No. Is any country, is any civilization that has ever been on the planet Earth been perfect? No. Not by a long shot. So stop looking at America's imperfections and look at the good that America provides, the opportunities that America provides. You know, if you're one of those American-hating lefties, well, you know, go somewhere else. Where are you going to go? Because a lot of these beautiful countries that you hold up as models of socialism, they probably won't let you in. That's the truth. I know the truth hurts, but what about lies? You know, Here in LA, we've spent billions of dollars on the homeless situation. And you can look at one place to just see the absolute failure of this money. A $26 million Skid Row campus, right? Right there in the middle of Skid Row. It's costing about $26 million a year. There's 3 nonprofits involved: Homeless Healthcare at Los Angeles, Social Model Recovery Systems, and the Wellesley Health Centers. The facility distributes needles, pipes, aluminum foil for making crack pipes, and condoms as part of its harm reduction services. Yeah, it's great. They have showers. They have, housing services. You could do your laundry there. I mean, there is a case to be made for having these places, not handing out drug paraphernalia. But this one area and the surrounding 2 blocks is just an insane place to view. You can see the video of people. They go into the place, they get their crack pipe, they come outside, they sit down on the sidewalk and smoke crack right in front of a government facility. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing, because, I remember a day where you did not want to get caught smoking crack. Here's some of the numbers. In this one little block, 693 calls to LAPD since the beginning of the year. That's an average of 6 calls per day for just 2 specific city blocks. They've had 4 homicides in the first 4 months of the year, January through April. 25% increase in aggravated assaults within the LAPD Central Division, with a significant portion concentrated around Crocker Street. And then the person who represents it, Isabel Jurado, the District 14, defends it. Quote, everyone in Skid Row, residents, workers, business owners, service providers, and unhoused Angelenos deserve to be safe and treated with dignity. The Skid Row Care Campus was created through extensive community input to provide essential services like showers, restrooms, laundry, health care, harm reduction, aka free crack pipes, case management, and a respite in a neighborhood that has been neglected for too long. We cannot solve Skid Row by criminalizing poverty or pushing people from block to block. You see? You see that? Criminalizing poverty. That's not what it is. It's criminalizing antisocial behavior, because these people could get beds. They label these people like unhoused Angelenos or residents or citizens, but in reality, they're just coyotes. They're wolves. They're parasites. If a coyote visits your area, do we start referring to them as pets? No. They're wild animals. A mountain lion cruises into your backyard and kills your dog. Should we say, family dog killed by pet? No. It's a mountain lion. It's a wild animal. That's what it is. These people are not unhoused Angelenos. They are drug addicts. They are mental health patients who refuse to take their medicine, who self-medicate. That only makes their psychosis and their other problems even worse. Yeah. And it might seem mean to label them that way, but as a former addict, I see things a little differently. I don't have patience for people. I know as an addict how low our rock bottom could be, but these people have passed that. They passed where they should wake up and realize what they've done with their lives and try to fix it. But they don't, But they continue with this unhoused Angeleno thing. Look, the truth of the matter is if a woman flees like an abusive husband in the middle of the night, or if a man loses his job and apartment, they could find beds. My brother-in-law was one of those people. He got in trouble with the law, beat up his mom, went to jail, got out. They gave him a place to live. He got kicked out because he refused to stop smoking cigarettes. That's what we are dealing with here. That's what we're doing with. They only want to do what they want to do. And they have been, either through their own mental illness and the media and the politicians, led to believe that they deserve whatever they want. That, I want to live in LA, so if I want to pitch a tent on the sidewalk, I can. If I want to shit in a bucket, I can. If I want to harass people, I can. If I want to smoke dope out on the streets, I can. Nobody's going to stop me. It's my life. I could do what I want. what are they accomplishing? Places like this, you notice how it all makes sense? They provide showers, restrooms, laundry, healthcare. But then, fifth on the list is giving out free drug paraphernalia. Does that really make any sense? They're fueling Meth Mansion right there. They're giving people, in other words, they're co-signing on these people's addictions and issues. They're enablers. That's what they are. And these very same unhoused Angelenos are crawling into the vaults of places like Verizon or, the power company or whatever to steal copper wires. They're getting electrocuted. They're ruining businesses. Businesses don't have power. And then they have to spend all of that money that we don't have to replace all the wires that they've stolen. I see it all the time. I work in the fire alarm industry. I watch what they do. I see them ripping apart our devices, ripping the copper wire out, putting buildings at risk for $8 worth of copper. That's what happens. That's what's going on out there. I mean, last year there was something like 100 fire hydrants stolen in LA. That's what they do. That's what these people are. They are vermin. They are destroying the infrastructure. And nobody's doing anything about it. We might as well just open up all of our empty buildings, leave tanks of propane in there, along with a couple boxes of matches, and just let them take care of it. Boom. Building burns down, then we could rebuild. We could rebuild it into something better. And it's the same thing with the Narcan. Like, why are we providing Narcan when we're literally just leaving these people on the street to die? So why don't we speed up the process? Because we're not doing anything to fix them. We're not doing anything to help them. We give them clean drug tools so that they could die from crack or fentanyl or meth, but not hepatitis B. I mean, that is the plan. It doesn't make any sense. And there's this fallacy that prevails in left society. Well, jail didn't work. Yeah. Does this make it any better? Is this working better than jail? Just allowing them to do whatever they want, destroy our cities, destroy our businesses, while still doing all their drugs just right out on the street openly, where any cop driving down the street could find the dozens of people to arrest. But no, they don't. Does that work? No. It works worse. It's not helping anybody. It's not giving anybody a moment of clarity. It just causes tax-paying hard workers to suffer. No matter what statistics might say about crime and the homeless and blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit about their numbers. They're false anyhow. No one wants a homeless encampment in their front yard. Nobody wants it in their parks, their villages, in front of the school. But LA City Council, they don't give a shit. They had an opportunity to make it illegal to camp in parks and to enforce no camping laws. But they rejected it. They like that. People like this ramen nitwit who's on the city council is running for mayor right now. She likes this story. Oh, evil corporation cuts jobs, person loses apartment, moves to the streets and starts doing drugs. No, that's not the way it works. I've seen it countless times. Person does drugs, loses job, loses apartment, hits the street, and increases their drug use. That's the truth of the matter. That's what is predominantly out on our streets right now. I'm willing to bet that 99% of the people on the streets right now are not willing to comply with the rules that they'd have to follow to get housing. That's my guess. Okay, I'm sure there's some people living in their cars, living in their RVs that, they lost their apartment. This is their alternative. And they're not struggling with drugs or mental illness. But that's a very small percentage of it. The sad part of this whole thing is that when you have a teenager who runs away, let's say that they're a member of the queer community in one way or the other, and their parents reject them, so they run away. They hit the streets. Now they're getting sexually assaulted. They're doing drugs to numb the pain. And they're going to spend the next 40, 50 years living on the streets because nobody is going to arrest them, give them a moment of clarity, and offer them a helping hand. They're just going to offer them a helping hand. And when you're wasted out on drugs, that a helping hand is going to be rejected. That's the reason why arresting and keeping people in jail is the only solution, because you need to give them that moment of clarity. Give them 48, 72 hours of clarity, and then maybe when you offer a helping hand, maybe they'll take it. I mean, that's what worked for me. It's exactly what worked for me. I was arrested. I was facing prison. And in a moment of clarity, I decided I think I'll just take the rehab option. Cleaned up my act. I fell on my ass. I fell hard. I slipped. But I knew that I had a problem, and I immediately checked into a hospital and got clean again. And that was over 30 years ago. And it was only because of the intervention of the police. You know, I met a homeless guy the other day when I was working in Long Beach. He came up to me and he started talking about how his vote counts and how he signs all these petitions, which really kind of concerned me because I'm thinking, oh, that's great. That's how these petition workers are getting signatures for these dumbass laws and these dumbass proposals like the billionaire's tax. They're going around and they're bribing the homeless. But then this same dude just started crying because overnight, his phone and bongo drums were stolen. What we're doing in Los Angeles and in other cities, it's not compassion. It's just passing the buck. So we have the money to give out drug supplies, but what about community events? Well, Karen Bass is being slammed as un-American for her last-minute decision to pull funding for the San Fernando Valley neighborhood group that wanted to close their main street for the 4th of July parade, marking America's 250th birthday. Well, Karen Bass, being a leftist, must hate America. This takes place in the Sunland Tujunga area. They've been doing this parade for 50 years, and they need $20,000 for traffic control and street closure costs. And they usually get the money from LA to fund this parade, but all of a sudden, at the last minute, the money's pulled. So you're going to give people free crack pipes and aluminum foil, but you're not going to let this city have its parade? What about all the money that the city spent on these anti-ICE riots that they encourage? That the leaders of our state and our city of Los Angeles encourage people to go out and riot against ICE. Why? Because that's their position. Karen Bass is anti-ICE, so, round up all the crazies, get them on the streets, and let's burn some buildings down. And that's what they do. And then when it comes time to help, they prattle on. The left loves to prattle on about underrepresented groups and disenfranchised groups and all this shit. Right now, Dr. Dre, and far-left Congresswoman Maxine Waters are going to war over a vital LA project. This one is just blew my mind. Dre is backing a vital school bond in Compton. But Maxine Waters, who represents the area, is urging people to vote against it. And it's set out to fix deteriorating roads, plumbing, heating, electrical, and other systems, enhance school safety, and construct, renovate, rehabilitate, and modernize classrooms, sites, facilities, including media and performing arts centers, technology centers, and athletic complexes for the Compton Unified School District. Right? Right now, it is looking like it's going to pass. But this is something that makes sense. Why? Because it has a focus. It's going to have oversight. There's no money for salaries or other frivolous things. Citizens are going to make sure that this money is spent improving the schools of Compton. Compton is one of the most underrepresented communities. It is comprised of people who are marginalized. And do they want to do anything about it? No. Why? Because Democrats need the black vote. They want to come around every 2 years and give these promises of hope and help, and we're going to change things, and together we rise, and all this bullshit. But they don't accomplish anything, because if they do, what are they going to ask for in 2 years? What's going to be their campaign promise in 2 years if they fix the problems in the black community? Man, you don't have anything. You can't come around and say, oh, we're here to lift you up. It's just gross. Fortunately, it does look like it'll pass. But again, Maxine Waters is against it. Maxine Waters, who is as old as dirt and is running for re-election and might actually get re-elected, but I don't know. If people would just wake up and mentally keep track of what these people have promised and what they've delivered, maybe we can end this reign of terror that they have. And it looks like people are waking up to that. Because from San Francisco to San Diego, voters are done writing blank checks. This author, Aidan Chow. For years, the playbook was simple. Rapid sales tax in the language of crisis, line up the labor endorsements, outspend the opposition 10-1, and watch the measure sail through. Well, this June, 3 of the bluest counties in arguably the bluest state, the playbook collapsed. Voters in LA, San Francisco, and Contra Costa took the tax hikes their own elected officials placed before them and rejected them. Yeah. I mean, let's look at some of these. In LA County, you had Measure ER, which was a half-cent per dollar sales tax increase to generate $1 billion for health care. When we already know a lot of this health care is going to illegal immigrants and to fraud, right? This guy, Chow, wrote, our association opposed it and ran no blank checks in LA. And right now, at the last result, it was losing 52-47. Why? Because there's no oversight. This is just a slush fund that the politicians can use to prop up their own careers and their own futures. Because why? We look at it from the state government down to the city governments. They're wasting money. In Contra Costa, Measure 8, a sales tax sold as a healthcare lifeline, lost with nearly 60% of voters saying no. Same thing in San Francisco. Because the truth of the matter is that we're seeing it with our own eyes. It's hard to live in an echo chamber when you can see the truth. Prove that the money, like Chow's saying here, prove that the money is being spent wisely. Prove existing funds aren't being wasted. Prove reforms have been exhausted before you start getting your tax hands out again. That's what I've always said. Before you raise our taxes, account for the money that you have. Where did it all go? But yet California just wants to put more and more regulations on people, make more and more expenses for all of us. And then they trick us into voting for sales tax, which makes life more expensive. But they have no clear purpose. You only have to look at LA and the amount of money that we've spent on the homeless crisis just for it to grow. I've mentioned this before, but New York and Los Angeles have 100,000 plus homeless people. Okay, that's first and second. Third place has 25,000. We have incentivized homelessness in New York City and in California so that the homeless come here from all around the country. Gavin Newsom welcomed them here. But we have to pay for their health services. It's the same thing with the illegal aliens. We have to pay for their health services. Taxpayer money has to go to that. Yes, okay, so these people earn money under the table, the illegal aliens, and they spend it on the local economy. You know what? I don't want to get into numbers. The truth of the matter is that we can see here in California the failure of our governments to account for money, to spend it wisely, to spend it in ways that will result in anything. And then when something like that Compton Unified School District bill comes up, they want to vote against it. Their own representative is voting against improving their schools because they're not representing communities. They're representing themselves. That's what it is. Every politician is only in it for themselves. The problem is that the Democrats, at least from what I see in California, they're willing to waste the most money doing it. So, in most states, protesters are forbidden by law to wear masks. But those same protesters then demand that ICE can't wear masks while they're wearing their masks. And that's, why? Because left-wing ideology is based on lies, not facts, emotions, not logic. Some anti-ICE agitators there in New Jersey were filmed by Fox News setting up stations, logistic stations stocked with helmets, masks, respirators, medical supplies, and other gear. Now, it's one thing when people gather to protest something. Okay, they should have their signs. They don't need gas masks. They don't need helmets because they're just standing in the middle of the street or marching in the middle of the street trying to raise awareness. All right? They only need helmets and masks and respirators and medical supplies if they plan on attacking the police, which is exactly what these groups do. I'm all for people getting out and airing their grievances. I have a real problem with corporate left-wing companies supplying these people with the tools, the weapons, let's say, to attack the police, to attack infrastructure, to attack businesses. In the end, if these people get their way, the very people who funded them will be the first to go. That's history, folks. All right? They really have a warped way of thinking. They preach and preach about no kings and end the oligarchy and all of that. But the oligarchy is what runs California. The left, they have a stranglehold on California. They love to say no kings, but then they back a king. They back his court. They back his edicts. Right now, the California Energy Commission is putting forward a new proposal that they call the replacement efficiency program. Basically, what they want to do is they want to make replacement tires equal to the tires that come with a brand new car. Well, this article came from Car and Driver, and I'm not going to bore you with all the reasons and the numbers and all of that. But guess what? Aftermarket tires are, for the most part, better than the tires that come on your car. The tires that come on your car often come with no warranty, whereas most aftermarket tires come with about a 60,000 mile warranty on them. This isn't going to change much. It's not going to change much in terms of fuel efficiency. It might make tires more expensive, which again, that's part of their plan. Remember, what Gavin Newsom and the other Democrats of California are trying to do, okay, is make California a playground for the rich. And the only other people that are here are the ones that clean the toilets and ride public transport, because they're trying to make cars too expensive for the average person to have. And they're driving people out. They are driving people out. How can you protest for no kings, and then these people are going to come out and tell you what kind of tires you can put on your car? That's what we're allowing. Gavin Newsom's already said it. We will not be able to buy gas-operated cars after 2030. We've seen it. In Spain, once your car reaches a certain age, you're not allowed to register it anymore. You have to get rid of it. Whether it's working or not, you have to get rid of it. They are lumping on so many fees and regulations. The truth of the matter is that California politicians are responsible for the housing problem we have here because of all their regulations, all of their fees. And they like to crow about how California is the fifth largest economy. So why do we have these issues? Why are our streets just teeming with street urchins? Why is housing so expensive? Why can't we build low-income housing? Why can't we have clean streets that don't have potholes every 10 feet? Why is it that our education system ranks quite low? Why is it that we have so many homeless people, so many people living in poverty? Why do we have so many of these issues? Politicians. Look at LA. They're voting for a mayor, and they're running right back to Karen Bass. Pratt is in second place right now, but Rahman is closing. Our politicians, look at the governor. It's not two Republicans in the runoff. No, it's Becerra. The only good thing about Becerra is he's not as extreme as Steyer. What kind of a fucking state are we trying to run here? Is this really what we think is going to work? Because it's not going to work. If companies move out, we're no longer the fifth largest economy. And keep in mind, a lot of where California makes money is supplying military parts for planes and things like that. We have military bases here. We make a lot of our money in the tech sector, which is, as AI grows and social media grew, we watched it ruining the lives of kids. We watched AI take over jobs. We hike up the pay for fast food workers 25% increase in wages for these franchisees. Businesses closing, businesses moving out of state. In-N-Out took their money to Tennessee. Starbucks is taking their money to Tennessee. This is their plan. This is what the Democrats want. They really want a majority of us gone. So they will make life miserable. It's extortion. I recently went through that with my brother, where he tried to make my mom's life so miserable that she would just pay him off so he could go retire. Mid-50s. It's gross. And yeah, he votes for this shit too. That's why Purple State needs to exist. Because I don't think that the Republicans have the answer. I don't think they have the answers. But I know the Democrats don't. And if we don't wake up to what's going on here, it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late. These people doubled down on their bad decisions because, frankly, they don't give a shit what the average hardworking Californian thinks. These people are surviving off of the naive young vote that thinks being a Marxist is cool and that hating America is cool. Now, I'll tell you something. One of the main cornerstones of Purple State Party is we love America. And we're coming up on the 4th of July, our 250th birthday. But every day I thank God I live in America. I represent America. I have no problem representing America. I could take our imperfections in stride. Nobody's perfect. Anyhow, thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. I'm just trying to get a message out there that we need to change. That red and blue is a failure. That the way things are done in California is a failure. Thanks. I'm Kid Copious on Purple State Party. So are you. Love one another. Keep on grinding. And hopefully you get that opportunity to just relieve the tensions and dance it out.